Hi, I'm Colleen. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist and certified cycling coach with Tag Cycling. I am here today to guide your Bikeside chat. It's a bite-sized introduction to hydration. So what is hydration? Hydration is basically the rehydration of water and fluids to bring something back to an equilibrium. In our case, it's our bodies. And as athletes, hydration works hand in hand with our sweat and impacts our performance. So hydration and sweat are part of our circulatory system, which is basically our blood flow. So our blood brings oxygen, fuel, and fluid to our muscles to provide energy for our cycling training and our rides. And then the blood also then takes the waste material and heat out of the muscles, out to our skin, which it releases as sweat. So thereby, if we are perfectly hydrated, that system works really well hand in hand. We get the nutrients and the energy to our muscles quite efficiently, and as we are becoming more and more well-trained, then that sweat rate works hand in hand with getting the heat and the waste out of our muscles. So what happens when we are dehydrated? So this is where the importance of hydration comes in as far as all of us who are doing various kinds of riding, whether we are training on a regular basis, we're out for a long ride, we're racing, we're doing stage events, how the hydration impacts our performance. If you are more than about 2% dehydrated, which is a term called hypohydration, your blood becomes a little bit thicker. And when your blood is a little bit thicker, it takes a little bit longer to move through your circulatory system. So in that case, it's taking a little longer to get that energy and hydration into your muscles, and then taking a little longer to get that waste and heat out of your muscles and then out of your body, thereby impacting your ability to turn your pedals over with your optimal power and also to basically last through your training session or your long ride. So there's several factors that come into play that impact how our sweat rate is and how our hydration is going to impact. So intensity of your workout, the duration of your workout, the climate of your workout, be it inside or outside, your personal body composition, and that is lean muscle mass to adipose tissue, to the fat in your body, as well as even your clothing choice. So we look at coming into, say, a 60-minute tag training session, which is a high-intensity workout. We know that we are indoors in a climate-controlled environment. It will be fairly hot once we get going. The intensity is high. The duration is 1 hour. And our clothing choice, for the most part, is going to be a cycling kit. We'll have a jersey on like this, most likely with cycling shorts. If you are outside on a winter day, maybe you're going out for a 2 or 3 hour gravel ride, you will have many layers on. It's cold outside, your body's trying to generate heat, and you're trying to adapt to that climate. So you can see that those are two very different climate situations. 1 hour indoor, you'll be sweating a lot more than 1 hour riding your gravel bike outdoor on a winter day. So how much does dehydration actually impact your performance? We hear numbers bantered about, less than 2%, you're going to lose X percent of performance. What we're finding in the sports science is that it's a little more nuanced than that. It usually takes about 3 to 5% dehydration before you'll notice a more serious impact of that on your power output and your ability to perform. But the more trained you are as an athlete, so elite athletes have been shown to actually come through, high-level events in a fairly dehydrated state. They could be as much as 3 to 5% dehydrated and still perform optimally, but that is a well-trained athlete. For the rest of us, it's somewhat nuanced, which is why it's important to have a general idea about how much you actually sweat. So there's a couple different ways to gauge this. The most common way is to do a test, and you can all do this at home. It's not quite as easy to do it in the studio environment, but doing it at home. It's a 60-minute test, and there's lots of information about how to do this out in the internet world out there, but I'll just run through it really quickly with you what you would do. So ideally, something like a TAG 60-minute workout. That is the perfect workout to test your sweat rate. You would get up, use the washroom, and weigh yourself, ideally with no clothes on. Weigh your bottles, so whatever hydration you're going to have for that 60-minute session. You won't be eating food in that session. And then get all ready, go and do your workout for the 60 minutes. Then once you're finished, do not go to the washroom. Do not go to the washroom anytime during that 60 minutes. Remove your clothing again because it will be completely sweat soaked, and hop back on the scale, record the difference in your body weight, and then put that bottle on the scale as well. So you'll record the difference in how much fluid you've actually consumed in that time period. And then there's a formula to figure out what your sweat loss rate is. It's generally expressed in the form of liters per hour, which again, there's calculators available online. That's probably the easiest way to do it. But at the end of the day, what the range for most people is somewhere between 0.5 liter per hour to 2.5 liters per hour, with the majority of people falling in the 1 to 1.5 liters of sweat loss, liquid loss per hour. So that seems like quite a lot, like a liter and a half of fluid, and then you think, oh my goodness, how am I supposed to replace that now? Well, the idea is not that you're going to replace a liter or 1.5 liters or 2 liters of fluid every hour that you're on the bike. That's pretty much impossible to do, and your system would not respond very favorably if you were trying to drink that much. So how do we figure out what the optimal amount is to drink? So knowing your sweat loss rate, the importance of that is more about being hydrated throughout your life, through the whole day, and knowing how much to rehydrate after your workout. If you want to figure out how much to put in your bottles when you're out on a ride or when you're doing training in the studio or an online live stream workout with TAG, we find that the average person will want to have somewhere between, and you can write this down if you like, 0.12 to 0.16 ounces of fluid per pound of body weight. So how that translates for the person who weighs 150 pounds, that's 530 milliliters to 700 milliliters of water. This is about a 750 milliliter water bottle, so your taller water bottle, and then the shorter water bottles are about 500. So for most people, you're looking at a 500 to 750 ml bottle per hour of your rides, and then you would look at rehydrating after the workout to top back up. So if you were someone who found that you lost 1.5 liters of sweat per hour, you're going to want to rehydrate, getting back up to those levels once you're off the bike. So other factors that you can do to plan your hydration in your 24/7 life, your daily life. Most people need to consume between 2 and 2.5 liters of water per day. So that seems like a lot of water. It's quite a few water bottles. If you have a big 1 liter jug at home, that's a good gauge if you fill that up twice during the day. Women tend to sweat a little less than men, so women would be more on the 2 liters per day, men more in the 2.5 liters per day. If you're staying optimally hydrated, predominantly with water through your daily life, you should be coming into your workouts and rides already fairly topped up. But there are some extra things you can do to prepare yourself for your hydration on the bike. If you can gauge what the workout or the ride is going to be coming up, you can preload your hydration a little bit. So if you know you've got a particularly hot ride coming up the next day, you can take in some electrolyte in a bottle the night before and some additional the morning of, so you're fully topped up with your electrolytes and your water prior to getting on the bike, so you're already starting at that 100% level. A lot of us run dehydrated most of the time, so when you are training, it's really important to try and keep that topped up. There is a genetic component as well, so just understanding that no matter how fit you are or unfit you are, there is a bit of a genetic component to both how much electrolyte you're going to sweat out when you sweat and what your sweat rate's going to be. So again, coming back to that test, it is a good idea to have a general idea on what your sweat rate is. Women also sweat a little less than men. So taking that into consideration, women may be more in the 0.12 to 0.14 milliliter or ounces per pound of body weight, while the men can be on the higher side. And then additionally, temperature outside. If it's hot out, you'll want to consume more. If it's cooler out, you can err a little on the lower side. Other factors at play: when you are riding in cooler temperatures or at elevation, your ability to feel thirsty is dampened. So you want to be aware of that as well. Which brings me to perhaps the final piece of this hydration. When do you drink to thirst and when do you drink to schedule? Sports science has gone through a lot of nuances over the decades, where it used to be people didn't drink hardly anything, and then they thought, okay, well, people need to drink to thirst. So just drink to thirst and that'll be enough. And then they realized quite quickly that that, for a lot of people, is not enough. It's not adequate. So then there's drinking to schedule. So depending again on your sweat loss rate, if you were someone that fell in a very low sweat loss rate, you're under a liter per hour, you're in that half liter per hour, you probably can get away with drinking to thirst, especially for a shorter workout. If you're someone who sweats a lot, you definitely want to be drinking on schedule. If you're in a long event, you want to be drinking on schedule, or you will get behind. And by drinking on schedule, what I mean is setting your watch or having an idea that you're going to take in that whole bottle. So depending on what your number is, say it's a 750 ml bottle, you're going to take in 1 bottle per hour, and you make sure you do that. So that's drinking to schedule. Drinking to thirst, we drink to thirst during the day. We drink to thirst for being out, on a zone 2 hike or walk, or a really easy ride where you're not sweating too much. But having the nuance between those two is equally important. And the final piece, of course, would be what you're going to put into your bottle, but I think we'll have to leave that for another Bikeside chat, because that is a whole chat into itself. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next month for another Bikeside chat.